Hello to everyone, my name is Zdenko Kovačić and I'm coming from the University of Zagreb, Faculty of Electrical Engineering and Computing. I would like to give credits to a number of my students who have contributed to the results that I'm going to show you. We are all aware that medical practice worldwide is facing a problem with too few medical staff, given the growing number of older patients and their more demanding needs. This came to the extreme during the current COVID-19 pandemic. Caregivers, due to too many patients, are often inaccessible, overworked, and patients are more at risk. We are thinking of how to alleviate this problem and how to bring IT technology into such scenario. And since we are roboticists, we are thinking of using humanoid robots to implement two demonstration scenarios. The first one, to have a robot as a demonstrator and a supervisor of rehabilitation exercises for hands and arms. And the second study case was to implement the role of a robot as a medical assistant in a caregiving facility. The already mentioned pandemic has initiated many processes of introduction of robots into medical care. Here on the right, you can see the humanoid robot Pepper, who was engaged in the hospital to allow the patient to chat remotely with their loved ones. So, regarding the methods, we wanted to integrate many advanced abilities that today's robots have, including verbal communication, physical interaction, and connectivity to technical devices in the so-called smart environment. Validation of our research is planned in several phases, starting with laboratory experiments, continuing with clinical trials, and finishing with extensive validation in everyday clinical practice. It is well known that physiotherapy is very important for people of older age, and not only because of fractures that may happen, but also to keep in a good physical shape. Also, you can fight against dementia by raising the physical activity. So, robot, in our case, is an assistant in a way that it first explains to patients how an exercise should be performed, then it repeats those instructions and counts how many times an exercise has been repeated. On the right, you can see one such exercise where the patient is supposed to lift arms overhead, squeeze and open hands. So the robot is doing this first, and then the patient is trying to repeat the same. In order to raise the motivation of the patient, robot also talks to the patient and tries to raise the enthusiasm and optimism while doing exercises that may cause significant pain. If you're interested in seeing how we did that, you can visit the website with the corresponding video. In these days, we are working on development of robots' cognitive functions, which would enable the robot to supervise and adapt exercises to each individual patient. And we expect that robot will not be only a supervisor, but also it will be able to optimize the rehabilitation. Here you can see the group of patients in the exercise room of the Clinical Hospital for Traumatology in Zagreb. This picture was taken quite recently in February 2020, just before the COVID-19 pandemic. And here you can see the robot Pepper showing the exercises. And you see also the patients who gladly accepted the robot's assistance during the execution of exercises. Also, the physiotherapists accepted the robot as a potentially very interesting helping hand. In the research related to the robot's role of a medical assistant, we have put our focus on developing multimodal interaction with the medical staff and patients, as well as with IoT devices that allow the robot to perform its duties more autonomously. For example, such devices help the robot to localize itself precisely and collect data about the patient's health state, including the amount of sleep, physical activity, and pulse. Let me conclude this talk with several conclusions. First of all, assistive robotic technologies have a large potential in giving support to healthy aging. For example, robots can increase the level of physical fitness and thus slow down the progress of dementia. Or robots can be very effective mediators between the caregiving staff and elderly patients. Humanoid robots like Pepper can also offer social aspects of patient care, which is equally important as the technical aspect. And with friendly appearance and manner of communication, the robots can provide emotional support to patients, sometimes vital for their quality of rehabilitation, and can amuse them through companion dialogue or play, which is always good for better living. Thank you for listening, and I'm ready for questions.